Hello, my crafty friends. It's Marie from Marie's Vermont Creations, and today is day 7 of the Countdown to Christmas card series for 2024 with myself and Michele from Scrap Secrets. And I am showing you what we're going to be making today. So the theme for today is anything but a card. So I wanted to show you these little notebook holders, and you can decorate your notebooks and have a little slot here so that the recipient can replace them with a different notebook. These are just some versions that I have made in the past. These can be customized for any occasion or any color theme, and this one I have decided to make with a shaker element. So that is my shaker piece that I have stacked some rings instead of using foam tape. And so we're going to start with the base of it. That is a full sheet of cardstock, so 8.5 by 11, and I am going to score that at 5 1/4 and 5 3/4. This gives us enough of a binding so that our cardstock is evenly in half with a binding in the center. You'll see that I have the pocket already built in a little bit. Disregard that because I built it wrong the first time, so we are going to fix that. So I'm just scoring or just pressing my score marks so that I can make sure that I did indeed score it in the correct measurements. I was going to take this away, but I kept my scoreboard. This piece here is 5 by 2 1/4, and I'm going to score it at 1 and 1 1/4. I do end up trimming it a little bit off screen because it was a little bit long. What this piece is for is to decorate the top of your notebook. So if you were to have pattern paper that you wanted to continue through all of it, you could definitely use that for this, as you've seen in the other options that I've made. Unfortunately, the piece of pattern paper that I selected, I had the one sheet and my leftover wasn't big enough to do any of these decorating with any of it. It was just for the front of my little booklet. So I'm just using some Barely Arts glue to adhere this to the top of my notebook, just to give it a little, cohesion throughout the whole thing. As you can see, I have my pocket, which I've already decorated, but I cut that section out and I will show you how to do it correctly. I haven't made one of these in a while and didn't bother to look at the directions or what I had. And thankfully I'd used double-sided tape, and I was able to gently pull this up and not destroy my panel. I would have just had to start over if not, but I was able to miraculously remove this with no damage. So now back with the scoreboard, and my piece of cardstock that I have here is 4 3/4 by 6 1/2, and on 3 of the sides I'm scoring it at 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. This gives you a deep enough pocket to be able to fit the back of your notebook. The first time I'd only done one score line and a smaller piece of paper, so I didn't end up giving myself enough room to be able to fit that in there. Obviously, if you had a smaller notebook, that would work for you, but I'm just going to score these with my hand, or press them with my hands. I didn't end up using the bone folder for this, and then I am going to trim off the bottom corners. You don't need them. This way, you have the ability to make this into a little pocket. And so I'm just trimming those off at each at the innermost score line on both sides, and then I will coat this with some double-sided tape. You could use liquid glue if you had the patience and wanted to sit and hold it to let it dry. I am going to double check it though before I go adhering it to my project again, because I knew a second time I probably wouldn't be so lucky to get this removed back off of there, and that seems to be working. So I will then put my tape on and get this adhered. I do close the bottom flap over the 2 side flaps before I adhere it down, and I would try to make sure that your sticky is away from the inside of your panel, if that makes sense, so that your book doesn't catch on anything sticky. I'll show you in just a second what I mean. And of course, I'll remove the backing off of this to reveal the sticky of the tape. And so while I'm doing that, I would like to thank everyone who has recently subscribed to my channel, and everyone who has been with me for a really long time or were subscribed to my channel, before now. I greatly appreciate all of you. I am creeping ever so closer to 1,000 subscribers. And again, if I reach that during this series, I will do an additional giveaway. So I'm hoping that we continue on the path that I have been and I make it there. I'm not quite at 670. I'm a little shy of that at the time of doing this voiceover. So getting there. I appreciate every single one of you, all your comments and interactions. It really means a lot to me. I will link Michele's channel down below so that you can subscribe and watch what she's created. That is not a card for today's project. We have 2 projects a week that will be coming to you between now and Christmas. So you will have lots of inspiration. This strip that I'm adding on now is 5 inches by 1 inch. And again, I would use your decorative pattern paper if you were going to be matchy with all of the things. But I just went with a darker tan because it did coordinate with the Doodlebug paper that I did select for the front of my project. So again, just adhering that down with liquid glue. Another little tip is I would adhere this probably before you put your pocket on, but I made it work. And now I'm going to stamp my Merry Christmas sentiment. You can do these as birthday, really anything. You can do a generic sentiment. You don't have to stamp a sentiment on them if you don't want to. You could just decorate them with pattern paper and leave it at that. But I just thought because we're doing a Christmas series, I would put Merry Christmas on it. And I've been looking for an excuse to use this particular Merry Christmas in a project that was big enough where I could fit it in with all the other things I had going on. So I'm just stamping that using some clear sticky ink, which this one happens to be from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm using my block because again, I put my pocket in and didn't do the stamping first. If you did it prior to adding anything in there, you could use your Misty and stamp that multiple times if you needed to. So I'm just going to cross my fingers and put some embossing powder on and pray that I got enough on there, which I did. I did actually have a little bit that wasn't where I wanted it to be because of course I forgot to use my anti-static powder tool, but nothing that a little dry brush can't fix. So I will just swipe away what is extra where it's not meant to be, and I will then heat that with my heat tool until it is smooth and melted. With embossing powder, it is grainy when you first pour it on, and as you heat it up, it gets nice and shiny, so you can tell if it's been fully melted. You don't want to melt it too much because then it will absorb into your paper and will not have that shiny raised look that embossing powder is beautiful for. So watching embossing powder change never gets old for me. I love it. It was one of the things I did this early on when I was learning card making, and it awed me then, and it still does. So, I don't know if everyone else feels that way about it, but I definitely do. So once that is done and cooled for a little bit, I am just going to take my pattern paper and adhere that down to the front of this, and then we are going to work on our shaker element. The shaker bits that I am using are from Doodle's Paper Playground. It's like an ivory mix with some gold in it. I thought it coordinated nicely, but unfortunately that company has closed, so it's not something that I could link to or have where you could get them, but there are several companies that offer embellishment mixes that you could find something or coordinate with your design. You definitely, as I showed in the beginning, do not need to make a shaker element on this. So this has acetate in it and about, I think, 6 layers of white cardstock that I cut out of 2 circle frame dies together, and then topped with that matching dark tan cardstock so that everything coordinates. And I'm just going to pour the remaining amount of this mix that I have into the center of here, and then use my liquid glue all the way around the edge of my shaker panel. And then I hold that down so that I know that it adheres, so that when I go to move it, none of my shaker bits go taking off on me or sneaking out the bottom of it. Just making sure that they're good and in the center before I press this down. And then I'll hold it And then, of course, you got to give it a shake to make sure that everything is moving about, because I did have it quite piled in the center. I was worried that it wouldn't move. I didn't give myself enough clearance with the levels of cardstock that I used, but it does work out nicely. And I think this is a nice gift to give somebody, to give them, for note taking. And like I said, they can always add a new notepad to it to keep it, going. So that is my project for today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them for me down below. Like I said, I will link Michele's channel, so go head over there and check her channel out to see what she's made. And as always, I hope that you have a great day.